God's provision. What does that mean for you? God's provision. Sometimes I say God's provision and protection because it seems to be both sometimes. When we think about how God provides for us, I think it's very subjective to many of us. But when we get down to the bare bones, what does it mean? God provides for everything that we need. And then he adds on things that we want. And he gives us what is best for us. When we have a different opinion than God about what we need and what is best for us, we think that God is not providing. And that is simply a human response and a broken response. Scripture talks in a lot of different places about God providing for us. In fact, if you remember the story of when God's people were escaping Egypt, certainly God provided for all of their needs. But of course, the people are wah, 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 saying that they need more. And what does God do? God provides more. And then when we get to a point in scripture where God's people decide they need a king because God is not king enough, God provides. The people go, wah, 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 and God provides. Samuel was very upset because Samuel told God, listen, you and I both know how this is going to turn out. They are replacing you as king with a human king. And we know how this is going to turn out because a human king cannot provide anywhere close to the needs like God can provide. But God gave them, the people, what they asked for. I think sometimes God gives us what we ask for just so that we can see that what we really needed was not what we asked for. What we really need is more of more faith in God's plan and God's provision and God's protection. We need faith, not more. We don't even need to ask God for more because he knows what's best for us. We feel like we need to ask God for more. We feel like we need to ask God to provide for our needs. But the fact is, God knows what we need far better than we do. So maybe we just need to ask God to help us deal with our lack of faith, our inability to trust that his plan is the best plan, our lack of commitment to God's plan. Maybe that's what we need to ask for. Maybe in our prayers, we need to say, your will, God, not my own. Maybe we need to pray for setting aside our human brokenness and allowing God to work and mold and create who he thinks we should be, rather than us deciding that we need to create ourselves. This week, I want us to all think about God's provision. I want you to find a piece of scripture that talks about God's provision. There are plenty of them, Old Testament, New Testament, you pick. And then how is it that you have been overreaching and asking for God's provision where it's maybe not something you need, it's something you want? And how is it that we can shift our prayers and conversation with God to say, God, may your will be done, not mine, yours, Lord. I work on this as well. I struggle with this a lot. So I join you in the work that we have ahead of us this week in our prayers. God bless and have a great week, and I'll see you next week.